HarperCollins presents Goodly and Grave in a Case of Bad Magic by Justine Windsor, read by Cassandra Harwood. Chapter 1. A Ball of Magic. Lucy Goodly dodged sideways. A flurry of sparks whizzed past, just missing her ear. Instead, they hit the chimney breast behind her and sputtered out, leaving a faint smell of burning, as well as a large scorch mark on Lady Tabitha Grave's nose. Not the real Lady Tabitha Grave, but her portrait, which hung over the fireplace.
"Excellent," said Lord Grave. "Your turn now. Concentrate. Create your own attack sparks and return fire."
Bathsheba, Lord Grave's Black Panther, blinked her yellow eyes before slinking off behind one of the sofas, as though she understood what was about to happen. Lucy narrowed her eyes and focused her thoughts on the spell in hand. As Lord Grave had instructed her earlier, she imagined all the warmth in her body rushing towards her fingers. As she did so, her fingertips grew hotter and hotter, until they felt as though they would burst into flames. When she felt she couldn't bear the heat a second longer, she raised her hand behind her head, and then, as if she was throwing an invisible ball, flung it forward. The orange-red sparks that were clustered around her fingers flew off like tiny flies and hurtled towards Lord Grave, who ducked. But he was a smidgen too late, and the sparks grazed the crown of his top hat. Lord Grave whipped it off and beat the sparks out before they could do too much damage. Lucy folded her arms and smiled in satisfaction.
"Impressive," Lord Grave said. "Now, as I have just demonstrated, you might not always be able to get out of the path of an attack spark, and a magician skilled in this particular art might be able to create a spark that will track you if you try to flee from it. However, there is a technique that—" There was a knock at the drawing-room door. "Who is it?" Lord Grave called. "It's Violet, sir." "One moment." Lord Grave put his hat back on. Then he hurried over to the window and opened it, in order to dispel the smell of burning before calling Violet in. "Please, sir, Mrs. Crawley wants to know if you can spare Lucy for a while. She needs us to fetch some ingredients for the ball," Violet said shyly. She was a small, mousy-haired girl, 3 or 4 years younger than Lucy, who was 12. Carruthers, Violet's knitted frog, which she carried everywhere with her, was tucked into her apron pocket. "Very well. Lucy has finished her dusting, I think, so she is free to go." "Thank you, sir. Oh, my, look at Lady Grave. Her nose has gone all black." "What? Oh, yes. Don't worry, Violet. It's soot from the fire, I expect. Becky can deal with it later. Now off you go," Lord Grave said. Of course, he couldn't tell Violet the real reason for Lady Grave's blackened nose. The little scullery maid had no idea that her employer was a magician, as were most of the other staff at Grave Hall. "Thank you, sir." Violet gave Lord Grave a timid curtsy, and then the 2 girls left the drawing-room and headed for the kitchen. "He's up to no good," Violet said as they hurried downstairs. "What do you mean?" Lucy replied cautiously. "I could smell smoke. He's been puffing on his cigars in secret, hasn't he? Master Bertie will be very cross if he finds out." Master Bertie was Lord Grave's son. Surprisingly, Bertie hadn't inherited his father's magical ability. In fact, Bertie didn't even believe in magic, arguing that it could all be explained by science. Lucy breathed a quiet sigh of relief. She'd worried for a moment that Violet might have seen traces of the attack sparks in the drawing-room and become suspicious. Although most non-magical grown-ups wouldn't have noticed magic if it bit them on the ear, non-magical children were a different matter. Their minds were still developing, and much more open, so it wasn't unknown for them to be able to see spells being cast. Because of this, all the magicians who lived at or visited Grave Hall were careful how they used their talents whenever Violet and Becky, the under-housemaid, were around. Down in the kitchen, Mrs. Crawley, Grave Hall's cook-cum-housekeeper, was in a high state of anxiety. Potatoes, carrots, bags of flour and sugar, and a large bunch of stinging nettles were strewn across the huge kitchen table.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?